Okay, guys, welcome to our first ever webinar. Thank you, coronavirus, for this. Saved us on catering, and we've had to learn about some new technology. So let's get kicked off over here. Thanks for joining us. Anytime you have any kind of questions, anything like that, please, you can see in your control panels, you can ask a question, you can put up your hands. I can see someone's put up their hand now, and so I can respond to you guys, which is quite cool. So anytime, just in your little chat bar, you can pop it through a question or anything like that, or a comment. As we go along, I'll keep my eye on those things and address them as they come up. At the end, there will also be a Q&A session. So let's kick off. Let's have a nice discussion. This is being recorded, by the way, so we can share this with our friends later on. All right, so unless anyone has any issues seeing my screen or hearing me or anything like that, we'll start. All right. I'm just gonna also learning as we go on this, so excuse me if I don't give you my full undivided attention here as we navigate this thing. All right, guys, so today's session is all about getting practical and using social media for business purposes. I'm not talking about using it for, it definitely is part of using it for your personal brand, but definitely for business. And it helps to do this as a team of employees in a company. It helps to do it individually if you're an entrepreneur. But really, what we're going to be focusing on today is using LinkedIn, because it's probably the most effective business social media platform that we have access to today. All right, so you can see the agenda on your screen right now. I'm going to run through who we are and introduce my colleagues to you. You may or may not have met them before. We're going to talk about what is your digital first impression. So how do you make a good first impression online, essentially? Then we're going to touch on how we're going to reach more people, because that's really what social media is about, and making yourself visible through actions that you can take on social media. Second, lastly, we're going to be talking about what you can do as a content creator, specifically on LinkedIn, and how that all works. And then we'll have a discussion and a question and answer session at the end. So unless you have something really burning, maybe hold those questions to the end, and myself and my colleagues can jump in and we can address those for you. I can just see here that someone has no sound. Let me see if I can help you out there. You should be able to. So there's nothing on my side as far as I can see from a sound perspective. So maybe your laptop is muted or something like that. In your control panel on the right hand side, you can see there's a little audio drop down. You can go there and just make sure that you've clicked computer audio as the option, no audio or phone call. And under you, there's a little bit further down, you can adjust which speakers and microphone this program is using. So hopefully that'll be okay for you. Give me a shout if it's not. Like I said, this will be recorded, so don't stress too much. Maybe pay attention to the slideshow, and let's click through here. All right, so to introduce you to who we are, my name is Nicholas Krall. I'm with a company called The Internship, and what we do as a business, some of you already know, we focus on empowering employees to be brand advocates for your company. So I'll be the organizer and the host of this little webinar this evening, and joining us, he's on mute, but I can see him, and he is paying attention. Kevin Kirby, also with The Internship, as well as Peter Groenewald. Some of you came through to this webinar by contacting a couple of these guys. So some of you know them, some of you don't. So I'll start with the first little question that I have. Why should we as individuals, as employees, as business people, why should we bother with social media? And why can't we just simply leave that up to the marketing department? You know, most companies have social media marketers, digital marketers, marketing managers. So why don't we just let them do what they do best? Now, I've got a couple of really, really good reasons why we should participate as individuals. The first one is that there's 8 times more engagement on a social media post published by an individual compared to published by a company. Quite a few reasons for this, which we'll probably dig into a little bit later. The second thing I'll touch on is that posts published by individuals reach 561% further, or they get 561% more reach than brand posts, specifically on LinkedIn. This is what LinkedIn's telling us. So it just shows that you have more power than your company when it comes to getting exposure on social media as an individual. And then lastly, 92% of followers of ourselves, our connections on a platform like LinkedIn, are unfamiliar with the company that we work for. So they know us as individuals, they might like us, trust us, but they don't really have any kind of relationship with our brand that we represent, the company that we work for. And that, I think, is quite powerful and quite profound. So I'm going to try and make this session as practical as possible. Most of these things that I'll talk about are actionable. So you can go ahead and you can actually log into your LinkedIn account and you can change things or start doing things, maybe take some notes and write some things down that you prefer to be doing in the future based on what I tell you. If you disagree with me in any of these points, I'm happy to defend my theories, and you can shoot those through. But we have an opportunity to make only one first impression. Now, unfortunately, we're sitting in a global situation at the moment where people are distancing themselves from other human beings in real life and moving a lot of their activity online. And this is evident to all of us at the moment, I think. Just personally speaking, I've had more inbound LinkedIn connection requests in the last 3 days than I've had in the last 3 months. That seems to me it's indicative that people are now migrating their efforts and their activities and the time they spend working onto digital platforms. All right, so your profile online is your opportunity to make that great first impression. All right, and people look at that profile all the time for different reasons. The first one may be when you send an invitation to connect with a person on a digital platform. When you visit someone's profile on LinkedIn, they get a notification that you visited, so they're going to check you out most likely. If you appear in a LinkedIn search, LinkedIn is a wonderful universal search engine at the moment as well. So when somebody is searching for companies, searching for individuals based on name, based on job function, based on job title, then you may appear as a part of a search result. And your profile, your front door, is what that other person sees when they're searching. Okay. When we post content, other people discover that content, or they read it, or it appears in their feed. And if they're curious as to who this author is, they might just click on your name and go straight to your profile. So it's very, very easy for other people to actually get a sense of who you are or visit your profile. And this is your opportunity that hopefully I'm going to help you take more advantage of moving forward. All right. When you engage with someone else's content, the same thing happens. If I click like on your post, you get a notification that I've liked your post. And what do you do from there? Are you curious about who I am, why I'm clicking? Maybe you want to see if there's a potential personal or business relationship there, which could be mutually beneficial from a business perspective, and you might click through to my profile. I hope that kind of makes sense to everyone. All right. So let's dig into what your online profile and social media for business in general. So which social media network is the most appropriate to be on, for the purpose that you intend? Now, again, I'm framing this in a very much a business context. So for us in business, probably B2B, many of our companies sell on to other companies. Some of our companies sell on to individuals as well. But what is an appropriate platform? And I'm going to unpack it like this. Most of us, especially in our circles that we walk in, are very, very comfortable using Facebook. It's been around the longest. People are most comfortable using that. Now, talking from my own personal experience and from what I've seen out there, people treat Facebook as a diary. So it's personal, right? It's about themselves. It's a place where I post pictures of my kids and holiday photos, and we actually do talk about ourselves. Sometimes we brag, sometimes we rant and complain, but generally it is selfish content that we post, and that's perfectly appropriate for the platform. It's expected. Now, try and do that or behave in that way on LinkedIn, and I'll almost guarantee that you'll be ignored. Unfortunately, it's the truth. So people need to understand how to behave, excuse me, on each diverse platform. All right. So what is a perfect platform for business? I say LinkedIn. Okay. Secondly, who is your audience? If you are in IT, who is the appropriate audience for you as a professional? Of course, people in the IT industry, buyers in IT at your customers' companies, definitely your suppliers, your peers in the industry. And these are the people who we consider an audience, because you can learn from them and they can learn from you. And of course, how we behave on these platforms should really be relative to these people who are seeing your content, who are engaging with your content, who are coming to hear from you, to learn from you, and to engage with you. All right, and then finally, what image should we be portraying on all of these networks? On a platform like Facebook, it might be most appropriate to be fun and casual. Could be pictures of yourself and your family at the beach. But on LinkedIn, that's probably not the accepted way to go about things. So on LinkedIn, a professional head and shoulders shot in possibly in a collared shirt or a tie is what we're going to be doing. I think that's pretty obvious to most of us. Right. So here's the CEO of LinkedIn, his personal profile on the platform. And does your profile look like this? And let's keep this rhetorical. Or does it look like that or like that? It's a little bit funny, but these are real pictures that we found. So I think the answer is pretty obvious, that the one on the left is most appropriate. The two examples on the right are least appropriate. And I have heard some people respond to the bottom right photograph, it depends what you're selling, but I'll leave that up to interpretation. All right. Let's get into a bit more detail over here. So we like to refer to your online profile, especially on LinkedIn, as your front door, okay, your first impression. When people stumble across you as an individual, they basically see your front door, and you would like to, hopefully, a lot of the time, give them a reason to want to knock and come in. So let's look at this great example over here. Does the photograph, is it decent and appropriate for the platform? Hopefully most of you are saying no to this question. Okay. Secondly, is the background suitable? Well, that depends. It depends what his line of business is, depends what company he's part of. If he's in dog grooming, probably perfectly appropriate, but maybe not. To dig in deeper, let's have a look at his pickup line or his headline on the platform. So a well-crafted pickup line. So it says, Group Executive Chairman of Top Dog, you know you need me. I'm not sure why I think I need him or why he thinks that I need him. So I'm pretty confused about this individual at this point. Let's have a look and say, is it obvious as to what he does and who should be interested in him? I would say no. And I'm sure you agree with me at this point. It's pretty vague. The profile photograph and the banner image don't really make sense when viewed together. So let's have a look. Maybe if I'm feeling a little bit sick and twisted that day, I might knock and go deep into this guy's profile and try and figure out what he's all about. But then I'll open up his profile and I might see that he only has 3 connections. And so I might be less inclined to take this guy seriously. He's never done a post or written an article on the platform. And the rest of his profile is pretty incomplete. So now I'm really, really not sure. And at this point, most of us would probably bounce from there straight away. So I put to you that we should all up our profile games and our profile photo games so that we can make that best first impression. So illustrated here, I think that would be a lot more appropriate. We want something business relevant, business appropriate for the platform, because we want to give that anybody looking really, really good reason to come into our profile and possibly even connect with us and do hopefully business with us sometime in the future. All right. This is something that I quite enjoy talking about is your headline and how we should craft an appropriate headline. Now, remember that when people are searching on LinkedIn, it might be it's definitely a great opportunity for us to tell them more about who we are and what we're interested in and what we need to do and what we're trying to achieve on the platform and who we're trying to connect with. So if people are searching for us, and we want to make sure that we stand out in those search results as much as possible. I will illustrate that in a graphic in a second, just so that you can see what I mean. You want to make your value clear. So if I read your headline, what are you trying to tell me so that I will want to click into your profile or click accept to your connection request or consider talking to about something in business? All right, thirdly, having a properly crafted pickup line will definitely improve your connection request success, 100%. This I've done in trial and error myself, and I've done tests where I've sent personal notes and where I haven't sent personal notes, and depending on my headline, my success rate either improves or declines. All right, at the moment, mine says that I help people with employee advocacy programs. So that's essentially a very, very easy to understand value proposition or intention on my side. I find that that works quite well. Okay, let's have a look at this great example. So this guy, Mike, he's an accountant, clearly. And what we see over here is that he says he's an experienced accountant, consultant, and controller. So if I'm searching for an accountant to help me with some services, and I get a list of people which are accountants and CPAs, and I read that headline, it would definitely tell me that he's maybe qualified to do the job, sure, but it doesn't really excite me. But then if I read this headline, I help small business owners save truckloads of cash on their tax returns, then I understand exactly the value proposition that this individual holds for me, and definitely why I should get in contact with this person to help me out. Okay, start thinking about your own profiles and your own headlines at this stage, and think if you can make any changes to what you have in your LinkedIn profiles. Right, so I want you guys to think about it and give yourselves a profile score. This is not something that you necessarily have to share with us at this stage, but do it in your own mind. And you know, if you're not scoring a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5 at the moment, then you do definitely have some work to do. So let's have a look. Give yourself 1 point for an appropriate profile photo. Give yourself another point for a relevant banner image. This could be branded or non-branded or industry relevant or something that can just grab attention. Give yourself another point for a clear and descriptive headline. What we've just spoken about, try and not necessarily put in your job title there. You can work more around your value proposition or what you're into. Give yourself a point for affiliating yourself with your company. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't really know about. They haven't really thought about it too much, but I see it all the time on LinkedIn, and they actually have, instead of the company logo, small icon there by the company name, it's simply a small little gray block. And what that means is that these individuals have not selected their LinkedIn company page as their employer. So what I want to do, or what I want my viewers or my audience to do, is to view my profile and then see exactly which company I work for, click that icon, and that should take them to my LinkedIn company page. And that's where they can get a sense about my business, and they can click from there through to my company website, which is where people expect to transact with my company. Let's remember that this is social media. People don't expect to transact on LinkedIn. They don't want to be spammed. They don't want to be sold. They just want information and engagement and ideas. But if they are in the buying cycle at any stage, they expect to transact within your shop, which today online is your website. So make it as easy as possible for people to find their way to your corporate website by linking your LinkedIn company page to your actual personal profile. All right, and then fifthly, give yourself a point if you have a really complete profile. And by complete, I mean there's some activity in there, you've written an article or two, you've done some posts, you've listed your previous job experience and your education, and you've even have some endorsements and recommendations. Now, if I go to someone's profile and all of these things are in place and I can tick all of these boxes, then just subconsciously I can take them seriously. If I arrive on a profile and these things are not really in place, then the credibility of that individual is probably lower, in my opinion. And I think this is true for most of us. All right. Now you know what to change. Hopefully I've given you on this topic some food for thought. At the end, I might ask you to volunteer your profile scores for us. Don't feel obliged to, but think about any questions that you have on this topic, which we can address at the end. Okay. Something else I want to mention about your profile is that, or maybe I'll ask a question. Did you know that you have a personal LinkedIn website address which you can customize? So if you go to your LinkedIn profile on the web, on the desktop application, so this won't necessarily work in the LinkedIn app on your phone, but go to the web and view your profile, and in the top right hand corner you'll actually see something which says edit your custom URL. So click the small blue pencil icon, and then it'll open up a page where you can actually take your profile and you can make it less arbitrary, less random. So you can remove the string of numbers and characters at the end of your name. And if you're lucky and you have a unique name, you might be able to get linkedin.com/in/your name. If you're like my colleague Kevin Kirby, you'll have to do something different because there's about 4,000 of them on LinkedIn. Okay, this is quite nice because you can generate something memorable, and then you can put this link into your email signature. You can print it on business cards. You can share it around your blog, your website, whatever you have. Okay. Lastly, because it's great to operate as an individual, but we're not islands. We work for companies, we represent brands a lot of the time. So it really is great if you can do this as a team so that you make a collective great first impression. So just to illustrate that, I want to show you a collage of 10 people that work for one company on LinkedIn. And if you're searching for goods and services from certain companies, you might check out these individuals that work for these companies to get a sense of the business, to get a sense of the humanity in that organization. So my question to you is, would you rather do business with the company on the left or with the company on the right? I think it's pretty obvious. To me, this is one of my favorite images because of the contrast there. And when I show this picture to people in real life, they kind of, their jaws drop open and their eyes go wide and they say, wow, that's really quite powerful. So I encourage you that if this is making any kind of sense to you at all, rally the troops, get your team to pay as much attention to your profile as you are now going to. All right. I'm about to move to the next section. So if anybody has a quick question that they want to pop into the chat, let me know and I can address it quickly for you guys. So somebody's posted that they have a 4.5 out of 5 already. Well done. That's great. That's awesome. Okie dokes. So if there's no other questions or no questions at this time, then I'm going to move to section number 2. And this is where we start talking about your audience. All right. The reason an audience on a social media platform like LinkedIn is important because, of course, social media gives us the opportunity to reach more people in less time and with less effort, and we can be way more effective as human beings. Now, I can stand around a braai with 3 friends and tell stories all day long, but I still only reach 3 friends. Now, if I post something on LinkedIn, I can possibly reach 1,000 people a day without too much of a train smash, without too much of a problem. So we really need to take advantage of the opportunity, which is how to scale our communications. And that's a fantastic reason to be active on a platform like LinkedIn. Okay. Quantity isn't everything. Quality is also very important. So that's why I say we need to connect with the correct, the appropriate, and the right people. And think about this for a second. I ask this question to a lot of people that I meet all the time. And I say, when someone invites you to connect on LinkedIn, what are they actually asking you to do? And I get some cynical answers. So people are sometimes afraid to accept connections on LinkedIn because they think they're either going to be hit with the sales pitch immediately. And I think this happens to all of us all the time because most people, or a lot of people and sellers, don't really appreciate how to use the platform effectively to build relationships first. Something else that people say to me is they are, oops, I think I'm scrolling through stuff here. They're afraid that people are going to be asking them or pestering them for jobs and employment. And that's obviously also very understandable given the current situation. And then lastly, people say, oh, I keep getting too many job offers. Now, you're very lucky if you're in that space. But I want to switch your mindset a little bit, if I may. And I'm going to say that when you're inviting someone else to connect, or if someone is inviting you to connect, you might want to think about that. You're inviting them to open a one-on-one communication channel, right? Because only if you're connected with people, you can send them a private message on LinkedIn. You can't really message someone else on LinkedIn unless you're connected, unless you have LinkedIn Premium. Okay, so to open a one-to-one communication channel, that's almost as good as having someone's WhatsApp phone number, right? Okay, there we go. You're telling them that you're interested in consuming their content. And that's something that I find quite interesting and different to what most people's knee-jerk reaction is. Hi, John, I'd like to connect with you because I want to read more about what you're writing. I find your perspectives interesting. And that can also boost someone's ego a little bit, which is quite nice. And then finally, consider that you're inviting them to read and to consume the content that you publish. All right. And these kind of things you can put to these people in as many words and say, look, hey, let's connect. I think what you write about is very interesting. I'd like to just see your content more often. Okay. Then your chances of being accepted, your connection request being accepted, go up dramatically. Okay. Remember, you can also click the follow button when you're trying to connect with someone else. Now, there are 2 ways to connect with someone on LinkedIn. You can connect, which is a 2-way relationship, or you can follow the person, which is a 1-way relationship, and you're basically opting in to see that person's content. Well, I always click follow personally. It also notifies that person that you followed them. And especially if you're trying to, gather information or learn more about an industry, you can follow industry experts there whose connections are maxed out. LinkedIn lets you connect with 30,000 other people, and some people have more than 30,000 connections. So there's no option that they can actually connect with you, but you can follow them and you can still receive their content in your feed. All right. The next thing I'm often asked is like, should I always send a personal note and a connection request? Shouldn't I send a personal note? When do I do either? It can be a little bit confusing. So here's my advice to you on this one. LinkedIn gives you the option to send a personalized invitation. And I would say use a note if you don't know the person, or if they've never met you, if they have no idea who you are, or if maybe they don't even know about the company that you work for, so that you're basically coming in cold. So use a note and introduce yourself and explain yourself. Okay, tell them why you're interested in connecting with them, how they can benefit, what you expect out of the relationship, and then you're increasing your chances of your request being accepted. Okay. And don't open with a sales pitch. I receive, and I'm sure you do as well, many of these all the time. You know, thanks for connecting. Here's my company profile. And then I just, want to fall asleep because I'm not interested. No one's asked for your company profile. No one cares. People are interested in connecting with other human beings on this platform, is what we find the most. And then finally, explain why you think it would be mutually beneficial for you both to be connected. There has to be some reason. Don't connect just for the sake of connecting. Make sure that what you do is intentional. All right. Here's some reasons not to send a personal note. So sometimes it's unnecessary. You're basically just wasting time. So if you know the person already, then they should kind of know you, right? And they should, okay, I know John from the meeting we had last week. Let's just accept. That's perfectly acceptable and expected that way. If you've had other correspondence, maybe you've had some telephone calls, you've had an email exchange. If this person recognizes your name, chances are they'll just simply accept your request without further motivation. And you should definitely connect with all your colleagues, with your peers in the industry, with your suppliers, and with your customers, as well as other industry experts, because you can garner a heck of a lot from what these other people put out onto the platform. You can maybe repurpose that, reshape it, you can react to it. And when you do these kind of engagements, you're actually giving them affirmation and you're able to serve your audience better. Right. And lastly, your headline does play a really, really strong part in the success rate of your acceptances, of your invitations. I found that myself, and I urge you to give it a bash. Maybe do some A/B testing around this. Okay, something else that many people don't consider when thinking about their followers or their audience on LinkedIn are LinkedIn groups. Now, these are groups of people which come together around a certain topic or subject, and you can consider them just another tribe that you can belong to. So if you type into the LinkedIn universal search bar, any search term that you like, you can filter on people, jobs, companies, or groups. And you'll find a LinkedIn group on just about anything that you care to research or find information about. How these work is you simply click request to join, and within 24 hours, normally the administrator of that group will let you in. Now here you can obviously consume a lot of content on that particular topic, and you can also post content which will be seen by these individuals, which is a fantastic way of reaching people who you couldn't just simply discover or search out. And then from there, you can invite people to connect and other people will invite you as well. All right, in groups, you can access content, like I said, you can engage with content. And when you do this to people that don't know you, you are planting the seed of credibility. You're starting to show off your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise to people who are not connected to you. Okay, so post content into groups regularly, and you'll look to the people there like an expert in your field, and then these people will spontaneously reach out to you, which is always great. All right. Does anybody, before we move on to section number 3, does anyone have any questions or comments around your audience, how to grow your audience, who you should connect to, who you shouldn't connect to? Any questions at this time? Okay, great. If no questions, then I'll just move on swiftly. Okay, so in this section, we're going to be talking about engaging with other individuals, engaging with their content on the platform, and what it's there for. What are the benefits? What are the results? So engaging by liking and commenting on other people's content helps other people see your name. So you might have seen this term digital visibility. So what that means is making yourself visible on a digital platform. And there are a couple of really, really good reasons to do this. If people see your name regularly, they are likely to start building some kind of familiarity to you. And familiar things are more trusted, familiar people are more liked. So you can actually trigger notifications in people's inboxes and they will be forced to see your name. All right. And engaging with content is a fantastic way to do this. All right. So why does engagement matter? Okay. 90% of people on LinkedIn are completely silent. They don't participate. I promise you they're there. I promise you they're looking. They're scrolling, right? But they don't really click. They don't really click like or any of the more Facebook flavored ones these days, Celebrate or Insightful, any of those. Okay, but I promise you they're there and they're consuming your content. But they're kind of invisible on the platform. Right. By liking a post, you're giving the author of that post some affirmation. You know, you're giving him a little burst of dopamine, making him feel good about what he or she's written. So it's a really nice thing to do if you find that content engaging, you know, if you find it interesting and helpful at all. By adding a comment, you add to the conversation. So you're giving your 2 cents worth, and you're also starting to demonstrate to people where you're coming from, what your expertise is, and talking about things that you know about that other people care about. Engagement boosts the reach of content on a platform like LinkedIn. Okay, if you click like or you comment on something, that person's network, the author's network, gets to see that engagement and gets to see that there's a conversation starting. But LinkedIn will also show that content to people in your network. So it's a fantastic way to amplify the reach and to spread that content deeper into the platform amongst more people. And relevant commentary positions you as an expert and a trusted advisor. Now, this in today's day and age, when we all know that people buy from people rather than from companies, people buy from people that they like and that they trust. So by taking these kind of small actions on a regular basis, you can actually build up your likability, your trust, and eventually your influence on the platform, which will definitely have some kind of business impact in the short, medium, or long term at some stage. Right. Moving on to section number 4 is around creating your own content. Does anyone have any questions about engagement? What does like mean? Who should comment? How should you comment? Things like resharing content, that kind of thing. Anything that's burning for you guys at the moment? Okay, I've got one question, couple of questions coming through. One question is, what is a good daily average of comments and likes? So I think I'm going to take that you mean how many likes and comments should you put out into the platform every day? I think you need to just make it relevant. You know, don't comment and like just for the sake of it, but really try and be meaningful in the engagements that you do. You know, and stick to your area of expertise if you're commenting. Engage with content which is relevant to yourself, your industry, your company, and your audience. Now, taking actions that your audience will relate to is probably the most important thing. I hope that answers your question on that one. Any more questions? I think Chandra had a question. Okay, this is a good one. It's been said not to argue on LinkedIn. However, people like sharing opinions. So this comes down to social media etiquette at the end of the day. And one of the fantastic things about LinkedIn that we find is that it is a pretty safe place to voice your opinion. Try and voice your opinion or say something or put something out there contentious on a different platform like Facebook and Twitter. The trolls climb in and it gets very nasty very quickly. Now, luckily, what we found is that kind of, let's call it bad behavior, is very curtailed on LinkedIn. You know, people expect that or understand that they're representing not just themselves personally, but also professionally. Their reputations are at stake, and they actually represent a company a lot of the time. So it's fantastic to see that people are more well-behaved and more inclined to engage in constructive dialogue rather than arguments. Someone could put out to say these new Tesla batteries are fantastic, and very, very seldom will you get someone coming and say, hey, no, man, that's a stupid opinion, take your rubbish elsewhere. People will constructively engage and say, well, have you heard about this kind of battery which is new and it's made of this and it might be better or it might not be and it's lighter, cheaper, etc. So that's what we find. Okay, just checking if there's any more. Okay. We'll definitely have a great Q&A session at the end of this. Right, so I'm gonna continue talking about my point number 4 over here. This is now about creating your own content. And this is a fantastic way for you to build your reputation online, but also to add value to your audience. If you seem to be adding value, then you will be perceived as valuable as well. So this is quite a nice statistic that maybe is a little bit unexpected, but only 1% of people active on LinkedIn actually post updates. So actually do updates. It's ridiculous. So out of the 606 million people that have a profile on LinkedIn, less than 6 million people a month, I think it's more closer to 3 million people a month, actually post updates on LinkedIn. All right, so that means it's very, very easy to stand out from the crowd. It's very easy to post on topics in your industry and really just stick out like a sore thumb because hardly anyone else is doing it. Okay. So that begs the question, other than just getting some attention, why should we post content on LinkedIn? And this is my favorite answer. This is my favorite thing to say. And guys that know me know I say this all the time. We should only post content on LinkedIn for one reason, and that's to serve our followers. And if we can all take in this mindset and all act accordingly, the world would be an amazing place. So let's post content that serves a purpose. Don't just simply post for the sake of posting. If you're just trying to get a volume of content out there, you're not necessarily doing your audience justice, maybe not serving them properly. Perhaps the content comes across as inauthentic. So let's really try and do this as for a really, really good reason. What do I mean? Okay, your content needs to be valuable. Your audience needs to find value in what you have to say. Secondly, it must position you as an expert. It must position you as knowledgeable. It must position you as someone who knows what they're talking about, that has your audience's best interest at heart. And if you can put out content like this, it's amazing the response you'll get. You'll get more engagement, you'll get more likes, shares, comments, and it'll just be fantastic for you. All right. Something that we should all not forget is what I mentioned earlier. We represent ourselves personally and professionally, but also the company that we work for. And if we're using social media for business, we need to bring in that brand, bring in that company that we represent. Because of course, a company relies on its people, and there are stories related to what our companies do. There's a market that needs to be educated on our products and services. So let's pull our company content in there. Let's talk about our company in a positive light, and it'll have great positive effects, especially if you're in sales, for example. You'll probably end up doing more business with people who consume your content in the long term. Another question we're often asked is how often should we put content onto the platform? That's a very good question. There are differing views on this topic, but I think the common sense is you don't want to, I'll hit that point in a second, but what you do want to do is you do want to post once a week or more often. A couple of good reasons for this. One of those reasons is LinkedIn's backend algorithm will actually learn about you as a content creator, and it will also learn about who enjoys your content and who engages with your content and who consumes your content. So it will actually start serving your content to people who will find it most valuable. And this takes some time, but also needs consistency on your part as a content creator. So not less than once a week, I would say. But we don't want to overpower our audience. We don't want to spam them. We don't want to fatigue them. We don't want them to see us all the time, 3, 4, 5 times a day. Then they might shut us down. Then they might start ignoring us. Then LinkedIn's algorithm will learn that they're uninterested in what we have to say and will stop showing them our content. So I would say if you are going to be a prolific poster, keep it to once a day, because then you give your content also the best opportunity to be seen by the most number of people. All right, and very important as well, stay in your lane. Don't post about rugby today and Internet of Things tomorrow and Wi-Fi the next week. Those are too diverging. LinkedIn will learn about what you post about and map your content to an audience which will actually care. Okay. The next question that's come up is, what kind of content should I be posting? All right, so I'll dig into that a little bit. In LinkedIn, there's quite a few different formats that you can choose. So you can choose text only, which performs still today very well. Many of my personal posts, which I post without any images or videos, do better than the posts that do have images. Not really sure why, and LinkedIn's algorithm is changing all the time, but don't ignore a text-only post, especially if it's longer form. So some of the posts that work really well for me and others that I work with are you do quite a long form post, and I think you can use 1,280 or 90 or 1,300 characters in a LinkedIn post. So you can really explore an idea. You can really get into the meat of the concept. So don't be afraid to do that, because those kind of posts where you're providing a lot of helpful and interesting information, they do perform quite well. You can use images, of course. Now, this is a fantastic way to draw attention to your post. Based on the fact, the feed is a very congested place. There's a lot of content in there. People are scrolling all the time. So an image which attracts attention will give people consuming your content a reason to just stop scrolling for a second and maybe give them an opportunity to read the first sentence or two in your post, so that that can help them decide to click the see more and open up your post so that they can actually read your entire idea. Videos are great, but be careful to use subtitles if you are going to be posting a lot of videos. The reason for that is because most people watch LinkedIn videos in the office. They might not have headphones on, so they do watch them silently. So if you can post videos with closed captioning, those will do better than videos without closed captioning. Okay, and you can also try something interesting like uploading a PowerPoint presentation file. Okay, this is embedded natively in LinkedIn, and people can actually flip through the slides without opening up a different application or program or going across to a different website. All right. Here are some examples of some real posts that people have done that have performed well. So just to hit on some ideas again, add some value with your content, share some interesting ideas, maybe some tips and tricks, maybe make a list of things that people should or shouldn't do. Asking questions is a great way to elicit some engagement and kickstart a great conversation on whatever the topic is. And don't be afraid to try something different. So if you look at the post on the right-hand side, nice long form post, a lot of interesting information, and a graphic that really gets attention. Something like that. If I can give any kind of advice when it comes to writing a LinkedIn post, it's this: don't write about yourself. Don't write about your company, because people, just as humans, we only care about our own problems and solutions to those problems. So in the wording of your posts, simply start with the word you or your, or include that in the first sentence. For example, if you are struggling to cut costs X, Y, and Z, then you're actually talking to the person reading. Right? Something which is one of my favorite formats to do is to answer a question in a LinkedIn post, which you often hear coming from customers. So then that LinkedIn post would sound like this: my customers often ask me ABC, So I answer by saying X, Y, and Z. So something very simple and easy like that makes a lot of sense. It's easy to digest and consume, and it can actually be helpful and add value to your audience. Right. What about content curation? If you're, I often hear it that, oh, you know, I'm not a content creator at heart, but my company's got a lot of great content, or my company's website has some great articles on it. Can I share those? Can I position those out to my audience? Absolutely. Because if you're helping serve your audience with interesting, useful information, then chances are, you know, you'll have a very good response off of that, and you'll still be adding value. Okay. So use the content which is on your LinkedIn company page or which is on your company website, because that's already approved for public consumption, okay? And share that out to your network. Of course, that's a great idea, okay? But there's a caveat. Always add context to your audience. Okay, so if you're sharing a piece of content from your company LinkedIn page and you don't tell your followers why they should be interested in that article, it's the same as walking over to them, handing them a book, turning around and walking away without saying a word. They're left pretty confused. They don't know what this book is, why they should read it, what do they do with it. Are you giving it to them so that they can throw it in the bin, or are you giving it to them to read? They're not sure. But if you walk up to them, hand them a book, and before you walk away, you say, look, John, read chapter 3. If there's one thing you do this week, read chapter 3. It really explains this or that concept very well. I promise you're going to enjoy it. If you then walk away, John has a great idea of why you're giving him this book. And it's the same when you're sharing content on LinkedIn. Okay. What you can do practically is you can copy the link from your company website, from that blog article, for instance, or from a press release, and paste it into a LinkedIn post. But please tell your followers why they should read that article. Okay. I'm going to go back one point there, just to touch on the last bit of that. You can also post a link into a comment on LinkedIn. Now, we've done some testing and we find that if you post a link inside a LinkedIn post, it might not perform as well as posting it outside that post or in a comment, because LinkedIn doesn't necessarily want us to drive traffic away from their platform, which is why on the mobile app, it'll open a LinkedIn browser, which once you've read that article, you can close that little LinkedIn extra window and you're back within LinkedIn. It doesn't work as well when you're on a laptop, for instance. Okay, so consider posting links into comments instead of in the post itself. Okay. You can also consider recreating a piece of company content, which you might find on the company LinkedIn page, completely from scratch. So maybe you can copy paste the wording out of the company page, maybe change some things to make it sound like it's you speaking. Maybe you can copy and paste the graphic or the image and pop that into your own post. And although you're saying the same thing as the company page, it's going to perform better because you as an individual are posting it out. That actually works quite nicely. Okay. Something that you should never ever do. You should never click post, share, and then simply post on a company LinkedIn page. Post. Again, you're not contextualizing it for your audience. You're not giving them a reason to want to consume that content. So it's much more powerful if you can contextualize it for your audience. I hope that makes sense. Right. Now, what about hashtags? These things became famous, I think, on Twitter. They're very powerful on LinkedIn. There's hashtag this, hashtag that. But what do hashtags do on LinkedIn? Essentially, they mark your content so that people searching on those topics can find and discover the content. Okay, they help people find posts which are relevant to a topic. So you can search for and follow relevant hashtags. So that little search bar in LinkedIn is quite powerful. They call it the universal search bar. You can put in a hashtag over there, hit enter, and you can discover how many people actually follow a certain hashtag, which is quite interesting. You can follow the same hashtag, and then that creates almost like a separate feed of content for you, so that the next time someone posts something with that hashtag, you'll be notified of that content, which will then give you the opportunity to engage with that content. All right, you can choose 5 to 10 industry relevant hashtags, make a list of them, keep them next to you. And then when you do create a post of your own, use 3 of these at a time. Using less than 3 limits the content's searchability. Using more than 3 hashtags, we find, kind of dilutes the message a little bit. And it might confuse LinkedIn's algorithm, and it might give your post less opportunity to reach the optimum amount of people. So use 5 or 10 regularly, but only use 3 per LinkedIn post. Make them industry relevant. Think about them critically. Will people ever be searching for this hashtag? So for example, in our office, we built a new podcast studio, and one of my colleagues came to me and said, can I use the hashtag new in a LinkedIn post? So I thought about it for a second. I thought, well, will anyone ever search for the hashtag new? It's a little bit vague. So try and just think a little bit about what hashtags you choose, but be consistent and you can use them over again. And so I'm just really touching on hashtags. There's a lot more detail that you can actually get into. All right. High quality content, which you create or post, will actually trend inside a hashtag search, and then maybe you'll become famous. So I was quite excited today. I saw that I was trending under a hashtag, and I looked at the statistics on that post and it hadn't gone that far, but it's actually quite nice to see. It's actually quite exciting when someone can trend. So use the same hashtags, create great content, and it actually can work out quite nicely for you. I do see a question here. How do you see that the hashtags are popular? Yes, so you can actually search a hashtag, like I said, inside the search bar on LinkedIn, and you can actually see how many people follow that hashtag. And that'll give you a great indication of how popular that hashtag is. I'm sure if you searched hashtag coronavirus today, you'll see that it's got a lot of followers. I think I checked it last week and there were already almost 30,000 people following the hashtag. And when you follow a hashtag, obviously you're served content, which is created using that hashtag, so you can stay abreast of that topic, that trend, whatever it is that you're interested in. All right, touching on the next topic, what about tagging? I don't know if you guys know how to tag people in LinkedIn, or you can tag companies in the LinkedIn post. You can tag people or companies also in comments. So this is how you notify other people about a certain piece of content. So you can use the email @ before a person's name, and that will trigger them to receive a notification and that basically tells them that you're making them aware of a piece of content. Okay, so you can tag people into comments on other people's posts. You can also tag people into your own posts or into an image that you use for one of your own posts. So when you do upload an image in a LinkedIn post, you have the opportunity to tag people into that image, and then their names won't necessarily come up in the text of your post. So it makes your post look a little bit cleaner, more attractive to look at. Right. By triggering these notifications that I keep mentioning, okay, you can force other people definitely to see your name, which is quite powerful. And this speaks to that whole concept of digital visibility. Right. Now, often I hear the objection or the excuse or the reason when I'm speaking to people about being active on LinkedIn, and they say, I just don't have the time. Okay. I'd like to shoot that one down for you guys. Right. A great example, I was speaking to someone the other day, and I heard this objection, if you like, I just don't have the time to post on LinkedIn. So then I use that example of answering a question in a post. I said, okay, type this out quickly on your phone. My clients often ask me, put in the question, and I often respond by telling them, put in the answer, and then type in 3 hashtags of your choice and press enter. And it took this person literally less than 2 minutes, and they created a valuable and interesting LinkedIn post. So it doesn't have to take you a lot of time to publish content. Okay, if you take an hour for LinkedIn every week, you can fit in enough activity to be really, really effective, and done over time, you'll see some great results. Okay, so I like to say, focus on activity that counts. I mentioned before about being intentional with what you do on the platform. Yes, I know social media can suck up time and we can find ourselves scrolling for hours and hours and not really achieve anything else, Okay, but if you try and be intentional about the activity on the platform, you will actually be very effective. So something that you can do every time you visit the platform, you can invite 10 people to connect with you, and that's quite easy. Simply click on the icon which is for your network. So click on there, and then once that page loads, you'll see that LinkedIn has suggested a whole list of people that you may know, that you may be interested in connecting with. And if you go and you hit the connect button 10 times, that might take you 5 seconds, you will grow and you do this every day or every time you visit the platform, you'll actually grow your audience quite quickly over quite a short period of time. Right. If you engage with a couple of LinkedIn posts published by other people every day, let's say you go on LinkedIn 5 times a week, that means you'll have engaged with 10 other people's posts or 10 other posts in general. That adds up very, very quickly, and you become very visible to a lot of people. And what you'll actually find is the more you engage in the content of other people, the more inbound connection requests you'll receive because people will be noticing you. Okay. Post your own content, like I said, around content creation at least once a week. That keeps LinkedIn knowing what you're about and who should be interested. And then when someone does come to your profile, if they're interested in you, they'll see that you have a healthy level of activity. Okay. And finally, I like to say it's like going to the gym. We would be foolish if we said, I went to the gym this morning, I did 50 pull-ups and 50 push-ups and 50 sit-ups, but I'm not any thinner, I don't feel any stronger. Now it's obvious, this takes time, and being active on LinkedIn works in exactly the same way. You need to put in constant activity, constant effort over an extended period of time, and when you look back, you'll actually see that it makes a huge difference. Right. This is something that a lot of people get addicted to. It's called your social selling index on LinkedIn. And it's an interesting way to benchmark your own effectiveness on the platform. Now, beware, this is an arbitrary number, and you can't really compare yourself to other people in other industries or who work for other companies, but it's a great way to track your own progress. So LinkedIn measures you against 4 metrics, so you can go and check this out for yourself. You can follow that URL that's up on the screen there, linkedin.com/sales/SSI, and you can go and find your own score. You can do it now if you want. I think you can only do it in a web browser. You can't really do it on mobile. So if you want to quickly go and have a look at what your social selling index is, you can go and check that out. And if you want to share it with us, you're more than welcome to do so. All right. Just something else on the social selling index. I've only screenshotted half of the web page in this graphic that I've put up there. Further on down, it'll actually show you how you compare to others. All right, and also on the top of the little graphic on the right-hand side there, you can see that this one, I'm just opening it up so I can see it. This person is in the top 3% of her industry and the top 13% of her network. So that's quite a nice way to see how effective you are compared to some of your peers. Okay, any other, before I move on to, well, now this last section is your Q&A. So thank you guys so much for listening to me go on and on about LinkedIn. I can talk about this stuff all day. I'm often being told that I should just stop talking so much, but I can't really help it. This is what I eat, sleep, and breathe. But now, please, you guys, I'm going to open it up to you guys. You are more than welcome to unmute yourselves and ask us some questions. And let's see if we can have a discussion, ask anything that you like. I'll also open it up to my colleagues, Kevin and Peter, to jump in and to chime in with any input that they have. So thanks very much. I see someone saying that they're in the top 8% of their network. You mind sharing what your total score is, Jandre? I'm putting you on the spot. let's see. Okay, I see in the chat window there, someone's asking, what's a good SSI score? That's all relative. Like I said, you can't really compare yourself to other people, but if you see improvement in your SSI score over time, then you're doing well. Okay, and if you can get above 60 to 65 and into the 70%, then you know that you are the cream of the crop. You're the sprinkles on top of the cake's icing. And so that's something, if you are aspirational about this, you can shoot for 70+%. Another question that's come through, what can you do to quickly improve your visibility? So there are a few things, and I like to say this, is if you want to improve your effectiveness using LinkedIn for business, then you have to make yourself visible to other people. So you might have a target clients that you're trying to get their attention of. Maybe you're looking for a job, so you need to impress a hiring manager. So there's a few ways that you can improve your digital visibility. And it's very, very easy to make another person see your name 4, 5, 6 times, and they have absolutely no control over it whatsoever. So it's up to you to do it in a positive way, of course. So you can, number one, visit that person's profile. They will get a notification that you have visited their profile. Next thing that you can do, and maybe you do it the next day or immediately or next week, you can click follow on their profile. So you're telling them that you are interested in them. They'll become curious, obviously, and they might even click over to your profile. The next time you visit their profile, you can click connect. Maybe you send them a personal note. Doing this, they'll see your name again, and they might start getting a sense of what you're all about and what you have to offer. Next thing you can do is you can tag them in a comment. For example, hey, at George, you might find this article interesting. So then you're serving them with something which they might find helpful and interesting, something of value. You could also tag them in a post of your own. And so by doing these kind of things, you can actually force your name in front of these people's eyes. And if you're doing it in a positive way and adding value, I promise you they won't mind. And that'll also increase your chances of connecting with these individuals. Okay, so the person who said they're in the top 8% of their network and their SSI score is only 44, don't stress. There's lots of work that you can do to very quickly and easily up your SSI score. So remember, you can connect with more people on a regular basis. That'll make a big difference. If you start posting your own content regularly on topic, so stay on topic, like I said, stay in your lane, engage with other people's content, offer them advice, offer them help, and curate content for your audience. So share articles and things like that, or other people's posts for your own network. I promise you your SSI score will go up, and probably quite quickly as well. But give it, let's say, get active regularly and then check again in a month's time. You'll see a big improvement. Another question that come through is, does video work better than a normal post? In my personal experience, I don't think so. I've done some research, and we've done some research here in the office. We're always testing these things, and sometimes videos do extremely well, and you might see a lot of views on videos, but they might get less engagement. Sometimes often the text only or the text and image posts get more engagement, even though they reach less people. So, I just encourage you guys, put out different kinds of content on a regular basis. Maybe this week an image with some text, maybe next week only text, maybe the week after a PowerPoint slideshow, the week after that a quick video clip. And if you keep adding value through content of different kinds over time, that's when you'll see good results, rather than just one soft post which gets 5,000 views and doesn't actually do much else for you. Another great question is is there a better time to post on LinkedIn compared to other times? And so think about this for yourselves. You want your posts to be seen by the people that you're trying to serve with content. So post when they are most likely to be on LinkedIn. So a bad time for me would be Friday afternoon after lunch, all the way through to Saturday evening. Most people are not on LinkedIn in South Africa that I'm aware of in general over a Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon time period. Weekdays when people are in front of their computers, at their desks, or in their home offices, obviously now, is probably a great time. Maybe not a Monday morning first thing when they're dealing with other priorities, but maybe sort of early morning Tuesday to late afternoon Thursday is a great time to post. Just from my own experience, my 2 best performing posts ever are published between 7 and 8 p.m. on a Sunday evening. I expect that's just because people are preparing for the week, catching up on some news, going through their feeds quickly at that time of the day, and I've actually done very, very well on posts. But do mix it up. The feed is a busy place. It's also not chronological by default in LinkedIn. So I often see posts which were posted yesterday coming up in my feed today. So you need to just kind of mix it up a little bit. So probably ideal and manageable for most people is post a couple of times a week at different times of the day. Another question that's come through, and I want to swing it here in front of my eyes so I don't seem to be looking away from you guys. Have a business page linked to my personal profile. Why am I not able to follow my connections on my personal profile through my company page? Okay, that's a great question. So LinkedIn sees company pages and business or company pages and individuals as completely separate entities, although the business page is administered by an individual. Okay, consider that the LinkedIn business model is to sell advertising, and that the content that goes there is branded and it's almost can be perceived as advertising. This is my opinion, and I might ask one of my colleagues to chime in on this once I'm done. As an individual, the content that we put out onto the platform attracts other individuals to come to the platform and engage with that content and learn from that and take value from that. And because of that, our content as individuals goes quite far. It reaches a lot of people. Now, because LinkedIn company content is it's more like advertising, LinkedIn expects you as a company to pay for that content to perform really well. So that's why we often see a very, very big difference, especially in engagement rates between LinkedIn company content and individual content. Okay, but just back to your question, why are you not able to follow your connections on your personal profile through your company page? It's because it's a company, and companies can't necessarily build relationships with individual people. So try and just separate that out in your mind. I hope that answers your question. And anybody will want to let me know if you want to also have a crack at that one. All right, anybody else have any questions, comments to make? Okay. Okay, related to that last question is it's not individuals though, but other companies. So I'm not sure I understand your question there. So as individuals, we can follow other companies and we can connect or follow other individuals. But bear in mind, I always like to bring it back to this. So LinkedIn is social media, so it is based on connections and interactions between human beings. I always kind of feel that the company's presence is required on LinkedIn because it's kind of like your website away from your website. and it lends credibility to your brand and gives you as an individual something to affiliate yourself with, but it's not necessarily an entity which has a personality, if you understand what I mean. Now, if that's a little bit unclear, we can definitely pick this up offline, and we can have a chat about that if I haven't answered your question properly. Another question that comes through, I've read on some articles on LinkedIn that say it's good to talk positive about your company. Do you agree? I absolutely do agree. You know, we owe a lot to our companies because they're our employers. You know, they pay our salaries and that type of thing. And if you appreciative of that at all, and if you believe in what your company does and what your company's contribution is, and you like your company's products and your services, I would say yes, it's fantastic to talk about your company. Now, that's a concept that we call employee advocacy or brand advocacy, and have these champions from within your company talking about your company. So if you are in business leadership or in sales or in marketing, of course you want to do your company a service by putting them forward as something positive. And you know, if you have a team of employees, for example, back to this concept of employee advocacy, if you have a team of employees all talking about your company, your industry, the products and services, you can really educate your market, and you can actually, you know, paint your company as valuable and reputable, and that would be very, very good for business, especially using a platform like LinkedIn, because you can reach a lot of other people. You've got a great access to a great audience. Back to that statistic, when I opened this webinar, it said 92% of your personal connections have no relation to the company that you work for or unfamiliar with your company. So that's why it's so powerful that us as individuals can actually tell these stories about our companies and our industries. Okay, I'm going to give you guys like 30 more seconds to ask more questions. And then I'm going to go and enjoy the non-existent evening traffic. Okay, so I'm glad I gave you guys something to talk about, something to think about, some food for thought. Please connect with me on LinkedIn if you were not already connected. You can find me you can just search my name, Nicholas Kroll. Connect with my colleagues as well, and you know, engage with us, ask any questions. LinkedIn is what we do. We help the guys with it all the time, and we can, you know, like I said, I'll send you guys a link. I'll probably post it up on LinkedIn and send you the link by email as well to this recording, so you can definitely share it with your teams. And hopefully this was something valuable for you guys. Hopefully we could impart some interesting information and some thoughts, and hopefully you can take something from this. That'll be great. All right, guys, thanks so much for attending. Thanks for your time. Hopefully all of you are sitting in the comfort of your homes, and you can go and open a bottle of wine now and relax with your families. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or my team. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.